I would like to say that you should be always smarter, but I don't know how to could be smarter. We don't know anything about how to improve intelligence. And as well, we don't really know anything about how to improve industrious either, but I can tell you that people who are industrious come up with a strategy for solving a problem that's ahead of them. If you want to know something about yourself, sit on your bed one night, say to yourself, well, you want to mean this, that you want to be this way. There's no game, this. What's one thing I'm doing wrong? That no, I'm doing wrong. That I could fix. That I would fix. You meditate that, you will answer, and this won't be one you want. But it will be a necessary one. In this video, we'll explore some of his best practices for maximizing focus and achieving long-term success, so that you can study smarter, not harder. Now, don't tell people to fix the thing you repeat every day. Because when you think of as though that's trivial, right? You get up, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, you have your routines that you go through every day, where those probably constitute 50% of your life. And people will think they're mundane and not to be pay attention to them. No, exactly wrong. The thing you do every day, those are the most important thing you do. Hands down. All you have to do is really arithmetic. We make an average of 35,000 decisions every single day. We can eventually lead to decision fatigue, as a mental overload that can impede a person's ability to continue making decisions. As psychologist Dr. Lisa Mann explained, the more decisions you have to make, the more fatigue you develop and the more difficult things can become. This mental enhancement can lead to poor choices, procrastination, or even to a tendency to avoid decisions altogether. One effective way to reduce decision fatigue is by simplifying daily routines, such as planning meals in advance, maintaining a consistent wardrobe, or establishing strong habits. Additionally, breaking down complex processes into smaller, measurable steps can make decision making feel less overwhelming, helping individuals conserve mental energy for more important tasks. I can tell you that people who are industrious come up with a strategy for solving the problem that's ahead of them, and then they do whatever they can do to stick to the strategy. So, for example, if you sat down today or tomorrow for a couple hours for a 3 hours and you fill in a Google Calendar, whatever you have to use with a strategy for studying and a list of when all your assessment are due and all of that, and when you are going to sit down and study, then you won't be in a position where you have to cram for 10 hours a day hopelessly right before you know an important exam. It's also a very effective way of studying, by the way. I mean, first of all, people who cram for 10 hours, they study for 10 hours, but they really are, because I can study for 10 hours. I don't have the power for organization that would enable me to do that for not very long period of time. I can measure about 3 hours of intense intellectual activity before I'm resident. I study public instruction in new neuroscience for that's by learning, where study sessions are spaced out over time can be twice as effective as smart learning. Its approach enhances memory retention and recall by encoding information into long-term memory. Research consistently shows that students who spend out their studying perform better on assessment taken weeks later compared to those who cram in addition to spend learning. Is getting enough sleep play a crucial role in learning and memory. According to the Sleep Foundation, sleep deprivation hinders the brain's ability to create new pathways for recently learned information, making it harder to retain knowledge. And also the case that if you study and then sleep and then study and then sleep and then study and then sleep, you spend it out. Then you won't be able to remember. There's also much more likely to that you are more likely to remember if you try to recall the material, and so highlighting in that sort of thing isn't very useful, but reading, closing the book, summarizing what you read without opening the damn book. That's useful. And the reason for that is that you're practicing remembering, and that's what you have to practice. If you're practicing memorization, you have to practice remembering. You don't just go over and over, over and over. And we have your recognition memory, but some we won't have you recall memory. The best thing you can do is read and write every day, couple hours. write about things you find important and see if you can discover what you believe to be true, and that will be your foundation and it's believably vertical. Research published by Bai6.16 was that at Brigham University explore how reading literary fiction enhances our personal ability to understand others, a skill known as the theory of mind. This refers to the human capacity to recognize that others have belief and desire different from their own. In the studies, participants were divided into groups and decided different reading materials. Afterward, they took a test measuring their ability to receive all the emotions. The results showed that those who read literary fiction scored significantly higher than those who did not read at all. So what seemed to happen in the story? It is they distill. So they watch people watch people, and then they tell story about what they say about what they live a lot of. Oh, the story, everything that's boring, hopefully. And then more story about setting things gets sort of allocated, and then maybe a great writer come along and write something really interesting. Profile character transformations, and then we say with fiction, and then we say with then that's true, because it is fiction. But then maybe that's right. Maybe it's more than true. Because you want the truth. The truth is mundane reality, and you already got as much that you want is the distillation of interesting experience, and you might think, well, what is something? Well, the answer is you don't know. That's the thing that's so cool. When you think about behavior, you tend to think about voluntary behavior, but motivational state will different habits are activated depending on the situation. Autonomic response. So, for example, when you feel deprived and you start to think about food and start to organize your behavior towards food and to receive the role that where you will also prepare for the food. And so it's useful to think about what's based on a micro personality. According to an article from Condition Today from title, the scientific truth behind fake it until you make it. Mental imagery and actual perception say common neural circuits, so they have different firing dynamics. This phenomenon is explained by His law, which states that neurons not fire together, wire together. In other words, if you do something in association with something else, to the thing you will get into line at the neural level. This principle highlights the ability to strengthen neural connections through repetition and association. For example, if someone repeatedly visualizes themselves speaking confidently in public, their brain starts to reinforce the same neural pathways used in actual public speaking, potentially improving their real-life performance. Even when you're just walking to a way you want to go, if you're successfully walking there, your brain tracks what you're doing. The circuits are activated while you are doing it, and if you what you're doing result in the result you desire, then the dopamine flows those little neurons that are active and make them grow and then flourish. And so, as you practice something that's working, the circuit that is activated as you are practicing is bad in dopamine, and that's make it stronger. And that's feel good. It's growth. It's part of positive motion. And so the positive motion move you forward, but also encourage you to develop a habit of not practice. And so one of the things I would really will say is don't make a habit of pursuing things that are good for you, because you build that into you. What happens in you become addicted to something, you really don't monster inside you that's growth, and this after one goal despite everything else, not a good outcome. In order to withstand suffering, let's say your life has to have some meaning. Okay, well, that's mean a bunch of things mean like that. But otherwise, you overcome suffering is by making the suffering into something meaningful. And I don't mean that physically. I mean it technically. You made a mistake because you suffering, you learn something about it, and you don't make a mistake again. In a study on impressive writing with 200 VBA participants, researchers found that those encouraged to embrace discomfort felt a greater sense of achievement and were more likely to encourage aggressive journaling into their daily lives, compared to those who were simply instructed to focus on the task. Perceiving negative experience as a startup process is particularly motivating when perceiving immersion experience on delay and discomfort is immediate. It is a lie, suffering and it's a lie. Oh, I learned something, cut you wrong. Who cares? It made you suffer, you care. So you if you run our little scheme in the world, little action and passion, you know what you want. If you're special 2 years old, you burst into tears and cry. And why is that? Because you don't know, you don't know where you are, you don't really know what you're doing. It's like time for next negative emotion. It's indicate that you're wrong. That's terrible in some sense because all must always mean that to learn what requires pain. So, what it seems to be in this rate of learning that's too fast and that hurt you, that will make you cry because you get dress you also opening up enough notice so that you can get benefit from the possibility if you are never kid fundamentally you can benefit from the possibility without being overwhelmed by the unexpected element of it and you can tell when it's happening in this one and the coolest thing as far as I'm concerned.